Hello and welcome to ELL Plus with me, Trina John Charles.
And me, Sabrina Boateng. Our headlines this week.
Millwall Football Club fans celebrate a victory against Lewisham Council's redevelopment plans.
Thousands of breast cancer patients may be denied access to a life-extending cancer drug because of a row over cost.
A charity in Hackney saves food from bins and turns it into free meals for the needy.
Millwall supporters are drawing a sign of relief. The Mayor of Lewisham has dropped his support for a controversial compulsory purchase order, which would mean an area around Millwall Stadium, the Den, being sold to the offshore developer Renewal. He says he won't be recommending it goes through. Millwall FC and his supporter have been fighting the council's redevelopment plans, but now, after a hard-fought political battle, Millwall seems to have pulled a surprise win out of the bag. Njoki has more.
Although it looks like any other day at the Den, Millwall Stadium in Lewisham, supporters had plenty to celebrate. Faced with steadily increasing pressure from supporters groups and nationwide media attention, Mayor Steve Bullock issued a statement by many viewed as a surprising change of opinion. In the statement, the Labour Mayor says Millwall must be at the heart of the development.
Yeah, dramatic afternoon. The Mayor has come out and said that the compulsory purchase order process has been halted, which is fantastic news. It takes away the threat to the club. It takes away the immediate pressure. We do suspect a political ploy because we've been calling for his resignation. And I think that this is partially a victory, but it also allows him the opportunity and time to, it gives him wiggle room, let's put it that way. So yes, great news, celebrate, but don't over-celebrate.
Millwall and its supporters have claimed the council's redevelopment plans would pose a threat to the club's community work and youth academy. The chair of Lewisham Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Alan Hall, led the opposition to the CPO and the redevelopment plans.
I'm pleased that the Mayor has issued a statement. The Cabinet took the original decision to confirm the CPO, and now that decision must be rescinded, in my view. Furthermore, there has to be an independent investigation. If there's an independent inquiry, it must be truly independent, and I think that means that the full council should have ownership of that inquiry, and I believe that somebody independent from Lewisham Council should be conducting it.
I asked the councillor what he thinks of the calls for the Mayor Steve Bullock to resign.
I think it's a matter for Steve.
Okay, thank you very much. The council's change of heart came after 45 Labour councillors voted earlier this week for an independent inquiry, which, it's been confirmed, will now go ahead. The Mayor is a trustee of a charity established by Renewal, the offshore developer who stood to gain from the compulsory purchase order. Meanwhile, fans are hoping for a club that's been embroiled in a complicated and protracted dispute. Could there be clearer skies ahead? Njoki, the Den, ELL Plus.
Thousands of women suffering from incurable breast cancer may be denied access to their treatment. Kadcyla, a cancer drug currently available on the NHS, may be removed from the Cancer Drugs Fund if a compromise cannot be made between pharmaceutical company Roche and the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. Our reporter Katie Thompson visits Croydon resident and cancer patient Bonnie Fox, who has been petitioning for the drug to remain available.
I just had this worry that there was something wrong, and I went to the appointment, and that's when she told me that they'd found breast cancer.
Bonnie Fox, the face of the Keep Kadcyla campaign, has shared her story about how the removal of Kadcyla, a life-extending cancer drug, will affect her if removed from the NHS.
When I am told that my drugs are no longer working, I haven't got anything else to go on to. There would literally be no more options on the NHS for me. So it's taken away from me just that extra time that I could have, basically. And that drug could give me years more with my family, watch my son grow up a bit more. I can't express how important it is to me, basically. It's everything. It's absolutely everything.
In an online petition, the campaign garnered nearly 116,000 signatures. Earlier this week, Bonnie Fox, Breast Cancer Now and other patients delivered their signatures to Roche and NICE.
Of the last decade where we've had no positive recommendations from NICE at all. Besides Kadcyla, there are a couple of other breast cancer drugs being appraised by NICE at the moment, and we're really concerned about whether they will get through that appraisal system.
Following the success of the petition, Labour MP Siobhan McDonough has secured a debate today in the House of Commons to discuss the future of Kadcyla and other cancer drugs. NICE and Roche will come to a final decision at the start of February.
Large numbers of people supporting such an important issue as allowing Kadcyla to be accessible to women who have breast cancer can only help. It will make more MPs aware of this as an issue. It will help more women to realise that they have power to contact their MP and get them involved in this campaign. So it works on a number of levels.
For families like Bonnie's, the future of their cancer treatment remains uncertain. Katie Thompson, ELL+.
Now, have you ever considered eating a meal made of waste food? No? Well, last week, a charity in Hackney that saves food from bins and turns it into the free meals of the needy played host to some special lunch guests, a group of MPs. Luke Radcliffe went to find out more.
These volunteers are collecting enough food to feed 40 people. Without them, perfectly edible produce like this would end up on a rubbish tip. They're just one team in a 13,000-strong volunteer army called Food Cycle. They're trying to tackle Britain's food waste problem.
Food Cycle is a national charity. We've got 29 projects all over the country, and what we do is really simple. We take surplus food, so that's food that would end up in the bin. We take that from supermarkets. Volunteers go to a spare kitchen space, maybe in a church hall or a community centre, and they cook it into a 3-course meal, which is then served to guests from the local community. So people who are homeless, on low income, families, and then we all sit down and eat together.
Last Thursday, MPs from the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee visited Food Cycle's Hackney hub to sample their salvaged cuisine.
They met with the volunteers, they saw the food being prepared, and then they sat down and had lunch with the guests and had a chat with them. So they really saw everything that happens from start to end, and they had a great time.
The Parliamentary Select Committee is investigating how best to cut down the amount of food we throw away. That includes quizzing supermarket chiefs last week on their commitment to the issue. Jim Fitzpatrick, acting chair of the committee and MP for Poplar and Limehouse, says the time is nigh for tackling unnecessary food waste.
It's an issue whose time has come. Everybody recognises that this is an area of policy where a lot more can be done, should be done, and everybody's signed up to doing more. So it's very topical at the moment. There's a lot of attention, and our little inquiry is adding to that. What we all want to see is as much progress as possible in the quickest time possible, because it's just repugnant that food is going to waste in the 21st century where people are going hungry.
Last year, the UK threw out more than 10 million tonnes of food. At the same time, United Nations figures showed that 8.4 million people in Britain couldn't get enough to eat.
There are real moral questions about what happens in the third world. There are questions about what happens in British farms, and the supermarkets hold the key. It shouldn't take government regulation, but if it needs government regulation, government should be frightened of doing that.
Surprisingly, the vast majority of food waste comes from our homes. Getting rid of supermarket bulk buy deals and adjusting best before date practices were just two possible solutions being investigated. The committee submits its findings in a number of months. Luke Radcliffe, Hackney, ELL+.
Written by the students, for the world, is the motto of the Student View, an online publication by secondary school pupils aged 11 to 16. This week, the Student View started working with a group of Year 10 school pupils from Addie and Stanthorpe School in Lewisham. Our reporter Njoki Coleman attended the training and finds out more.
You will be listening to what you say. A notepad and pen was all that was needed from students embarking on their first Student View training session on the art of interviewing. Goldsmiths journalism professor and Student View trustee Angela Phillips led the session where school pupils learned about the job of interviewing and interview techniques.
I was very impressed that Student View starts from inside schools, so it was a bottom-up idea rather than a top-down one. And I am a great believer that things grow better from the bottom. So that's why I decided to get involved with Student View. And that's why I involved the Goldsmiths Journalism School with Student View as a sponsor.
The organizers say the work of Student View has had a positive impact on participants. Over 90% of school pupils involved in the program have improved confidence, resilience, and aspiration.
I've learned the art of interviewing, as just previously taught, and also the sort of definition of news and where you can get your news from, such as social media, like Twitter and Instagram.
I think this interview is very important in telling me about what an impact I can make to my school and other students.
School pupils are able to write on topics that interest them from a variety of categories, such as entertainment and arts, sports, health, education, and environment. This program has improved literary skills across London. The Student View was founded 18 months ago to improve reading and writing skills among school pupils. The program is now in the works of becoming a charity.
We go into schools and train students and teachers in the basics of ethical online journalism, and then the schools then write their articles about issues that they care about. So our aim is to scale this to as many schools as possible. Currently we're working with just over 250 students in London, and we aim to expand that over the course of the next few years.
The Student View is currently working with 250 school pupils across London and plans on expanding over the next few years. Njoki, Coleman, Lewisham, ELL+.
Earlier, I spoke to Angela Phillips, a professor of journalism at Goldsmiths University and a trustee for the Student View. I asked her why she became involved with the project.
I liked the idea that Student View was something that was generated by teachers in classrooms rather than by an external organisation that was trying to get them to do something. I liked the idea also that it brought together basic literacy with ideas about getting students to to understand journalism. And this for me does two things that are both equally important. One is it gives children who may for one reason or another have been kind of lagging a bit in terms of their education, it gives them a very good reason to start thinking about communication, about writing, and that in turn improves their writing skills. But it also means that they're learning to understand how to decode the way in which news is discussed. And that means that from a democratic point of view, they're better equipped to understand how the world works. And these two things are very important as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. In your opinion, why is it important for younger people to become involved in journalism, which you've kind of told us about just now? But
I think it's critical now in what people refer to as a kind of post-truth environment. I think it's incredibly important that young people understand where the information they get is coming from, and that they understand how to understand it. I think it's quite difficult, and I think that this provides basic media literacy. But it's also important because I would like to see a future generation of journalists coming from a much more diverse strand of society. At the moment, journalism is dominated by people like me, white middle-class people. I think journalism needs to be broader. It needs to be much more representative of the society that it seeks to represent.
Are there any challenges working with a younger demographic when you did that class?
I found it really exciting working with younger kids. I'm used to working in a university and talking to people who are doing journalism because that's where they want to go. That's what they want to do on the whole. Talking to a group of young people and finding out how engaged they were and how intelligent their questioning was, I found very refreshing and very interesting, and I very much look forward to doing more of it. I hope to be much more engaged with Student View in the future.
Stay with us now. We're taking a short break now. We'll be back soon with a roundup of the local news. Welcome back to ELL Plus with me, Sabrina Boateng.
And me, Trina John Charles.
Art is the result of an urge, controlled and applied by the will of the artist. Through the urge often comes out far stronger than the control. These are the words of Keith Church, a late art student at Goldsmiths. The university is holding an exhibition of his work. Our reporter, Elijah Kong, is there. Hi Elijah, so tell me, why have Goldsmiths decided to put an exhibition on right now?
Hi Sabrina, because Keith Church is also a former Goldsmiths art student. He did his art foundation course in 1976. After left Goldsmiths, he was murdered in 1982. He didn't get any chance to show some of his artwork. So this year, his family asked Goldsmiths and they helped to organize this exhibition to show some of his artworks and also to inspire the other young artists.
So how long is the exhibition running for?
It's open to public until 9th February. All public are welcome to come and see.
Thank you, Elijah Kong.
Now it's time for the local news with Njoki Coleman.
Hackneywick Overground Station is on track for a £25 million redesign. The London Legacy Development Corporation is behind the renovation plans and has released pictures of the station's transformation. The architects have designed the station to reflect the area's artistic heritage. It will feature colored concrete walls and illuminated glass. It will also include new stairs and lifts to improve access for commuters. The work is scheduled for completion in January 2018. Earlier this week, a Lewisham freight train derailed. 3 wagons carrying sand came off the tracks and 2 of those wagons overturned. The derailment has caused corruption amongst southeastern commuters. After analysis of the track, a stretch of 50 meters will need to be rebuilt. The London Legacy Development Corporation has proposed building 2 new bridges in Hackney Wick. This has been opposed by Save Hackney Wick campaign, which is campaigning to reduce business developments and to keep local creative community alive. A consultation is now open for the public to comment about the proposed developments.
Important for London in general. It's important if we want to be proud of our creative output and as being a creative leader, and whether it's like London, you know, leading the way like with the UK, or whether it's the UK leading the way with the rest of the world. But the creative economy is a massive economy for the UK, and it's places like Hackney Wick, which have had like a hugely dense concentration of artists that have been, I guess, the most natural breeding grounds of recent times in London to make those sort of, you know, like, whether you call it like cultural rising individuals or companies or, you know, actual products. It's been like one of the very few areas in London that's sort of like brought this kind of level of vibrancy and vitality from the creative arts and fed it back into the city.
That's all for local news. Back to you, Trina.
Thank you. On Friday, the House of Commons published their report on nationwide obesity. Amongst the findings were updated statistics showing that 27% of UK adults are obese and a further 36% are overweight. A recent health report by Lewisham Council also highlights the extent of the issue within the borough. Anilesh Kumar reports.
Figures released on Friday in the House of Commons find that nearly a third of UK adults are obese. The annual Public Health Report for Lewisham reports that more than 60% of adults in the area are obese and overweight. The question is, what is contributing to obesity in Lewisham?
People eating a diet that's too high in calories and low in nutritional values, so low in micronutrients, high in sugars, in bad fats, not enough protein, fruit and vegetables, and too much processed food basically.
Under what is called a whole system approach, Lewisham along with Greenwich are the only 2 boroughs in London to have adopted the nationwide campaign Smart Sugar to reduce the daily amount of sugar consumption.
There is every possibility that as we age, we gain weight. But through this journey of physical transition, that is from here to here to here, there is something that taste completely disguises its damage, and that is this: carbohydrates.
The fact that manufacturers put sugar in so many products, and it's often hidden, so you might look for sugar in the ingredients, but instead of it being sugar, it will be sucrose or dextrose or glucose, fructose, and in things that you wouldn't anticipate, so say in soups, in sauces, condiments, cereals, breakfast bars, the things that you think are supposedly healthy but are so full of sugar.
In the neighbouring boroughs, while Tar Hamlets has a fair record for obesity with 20 to 30% adults being obese, Croydon has almost similar figures to Lewisham. However, is sugar the only contributing factor? Maybe not.
There's possibly an attitude in people that healthy food equals expensive food. But I actually think it's much more of a question of lifestyle choice and to some extent education.
Last year, the council in their own survey found that people are willing to make the change. And with the right nutritional information, full participation in campaign, and the community's cooperation, residents of Lewisham could really have their cake and eat it too. Anilesh, Kumar, ELL Plus.
Skinner's Academy in Hackney is the home of a newly launched American football school. The founders are 2 university students. The classes were introduced to encourage children from deprived areas to take part in sport and to eat healthily. Evgeniya Dolina reports.
For Hackney children, Friday nights may now look like this. Hackney has the 7th highest rate in England in childhood obesity. These alarming statistics have urged local people to take matters in their own hands.
From our research, because we're both directors of studying masters, I'm doing educational leadership and management, and my partner's in sports management. And so we found out that in the most deprived areas, the boroughs that we're looking to target have a higher rate of obesity. So we thought if we set up clubs in those areas, we can help train the young people, get them fit and introduce them to healthy nutrition and to help the government's obesity strategy.
Rani Lunsen and Faz Hossenali have launched their own American Football Academy to introduce their favorite sport to London and to help the children in the area get fit. They call the company Floreal Sports.
Decided to bring American football to London because it's a new sport. Soccer, again, is very saturated here, and other sports are very well known, and we just thought we'd bring something new to the table, really.
Both girls grew up nearby and know all about the difficulties that children in deprived areas face. They're not relying on any funding schemes and bought all the equipment for the classes themselves.
We're now watching the first free trial session, but unfortunately no obese children have showed up so far. Let's hope that the only reason for this is the extremely cold conditions. It's so freezing that even I could use a warm-up.
Only a few children came to the opening class, but Faz and Rani are hoping for about 20 children in each age group in the future, under 12s and over 12s. They charge £5 per person to keep the lessons affordable.
We want to make it as cheap as possible for the children in the area because it is the most deprived areas in London. So we're not really chasing the money, we just want to make sure children enjoy the sport.
The girls are also going to teach the kids the basics of healthy eating and to introduce a real nutrition program from the NFL Dallas Cowboy nutritionists.
I used to train myself at the gym. I actually was size 16 and I went down to size 8. For me, nutrition comes from within, and it's more of a habit, and it's not just a routine. It's not just a short period of time. It's part of your life and routine. So that's how I see it.
There is still a question mark over whether children in the deprived areas would be able to follow elite sports nutrition programs. Will they be the professional athletes of the future? Well, at least a start has been made. Evgeniya, Dolina, ELL Plus.
That's all from us.
Thank you for watching ELL Plus. We'll be back next week.